Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Digital Dragons event. I'm delighted to see all this wonderful audience here. My name is Lev Kommisarchik, Director of Mobile Games at ANSO. And today we're going to talk about games. How games became so big. What are the best strategies to make money out of them? In other words, how to monetize them? What are the options? At the end, we'll double down on how in-game advertisement stands out for this particular purpose. Let's dive in. If we take a look at some numbers, we can easily see that 2021 brings a new record, $175 billion. This is what projected for the total revenue from games between console, PC, and mobile. We can easily notice that mobile dominates the market with more than 50% of revenue coming from mobile. This is actually an interesting phenomenon. How come that mobile that came so late to the game actually overperforms PC and console? Let's remember what was the situation a few years ago, maybe at the 80s or even 90s, when there was only PC available. Then consoles burst in among other devices. But all that time, the privilege of playing games was kept to only the lucky ones to have this device, or the ones that were actually the real fans that would just strive to go and get this machine. Nowadays, with mobile devices penetrating basically every household across the world, more than 50% of the population holds a mobile device. Everyone can become a gamer. Actually, 3.1 billion gamers globally are counted by today. They spend on average more than 8 hours per week playing games. In some cases, it's more than watching TV, sometimes even more than watching Netflix or just browsing the internet. DAU on average increases by 38% this year. This is quite tremendous. If we take a look on the different platforms, we can see additional records. 25 million players on a given time for Steam. It's an all-time peak-breaking history. If you take a look at League of Legends, a Super Bowl live stream, they broke a tremendous record of 32 million average minute users. This means that for every minute during the stream, on average, there were 32 million users. Just imagine yourself, 32 million users watching non-stop, probably, this live stream. This is huge. This is also huge power and also huge potential for revenue. 15 million users downloaded Call of Duty and joined in 3 days on March during their Warzone. This is a tremendous achievement. Now, we see that lately the gaming industry and the games penetrate every potential category in our life. Not only that, they obviously take over the way we consume sports, creating the new esport segment. They invade our lifestyle with games like Minecraft. They invade our music consumption with events like the FORTNITE event, Travis Scott. A few more about words about that later on. And TV and video, of course, we see how TV shows turn out to become games featuring the heroes, and vice versa. How Angry Birds, for example, from being a game became actually a TV show. If we want to dive deeper into the numbers, what would be the most preferred device to play games? So 44% for PC is actually a nice achievement, assuming that the penetration of a smartphone is way, way, way higher. But still, almost 75% of gamers tell us that they use smartphone for gaming. The overall the overall number of internet users who play games is almost 87%. So not only that internet users play games, they also use it across several devices, right? If 87% play and we already have 75% smartphone, then what all those other percentages? Basically, this is duplicacy, users who play on more than one device. And this is not surprising because the habits of how we play change during the time. If once upon a time, and I'm talking just a few years ago, a player who considered himself just an ordinary person going to work would play on his commute. Let's say he's sitting in the bus and playing a game. He would play during his commute, will come home and will store his phone wherever it is. Nowadays, not only that we're connected to the phone, but we can continue the game at home. We can start it on the phone, continue at home on your favorite device, and vice versa. So the habits are changing and the numbers are raising. We see that 60% of Fortnite users actually are already cross-platform players. Not only that, cross-platform players show themselves as way more engaging. They play almost 6 times more on average than the other players who only use one platform, and their plays are 1.5 hour longer sessions. This is tremendous. I told you that we'll come back to Travis Scott, so this is right. On April 2020, Fortnite held an event where within the game, they hosted Travis Scott's performance. It attracted 12.3 million concurrent players during this show and a total views of more than 27 million players when it was translated later on Twitch and YouTube. Galactus event also had their own record. It was previously and was tremendous. Actually, not previously. December was right after April. So with a record of 15.3 million concurrent players. This was tremendous achievement. Once again, it shows that not only that games are becoming big, they're evolving and becoming significant in our lives. They're so significant in our lives that we tend to search stuff about them. So if we take a look at the key topics that people search in Google, we would find stuff like hardware and accessories or competitive communities, escaping to immersive genres. And of course, gaming is not only to play, it's also to learn some new stuff. If you want to double down on gaming related terms, we can see that stuff like gaming chair actually earned quite a lot of growth in the recent time. But competitive multiplayer stands out. 700 times more. It shows 700 times growth. It's tremendous. It means that not only people are now more interested in games, more interested in cross-platform games, they also want to play with people. They're tired of playing against the computer. They are tired of just solving riddles. They want to play against others. No wonder that multiplayer games online also gain nice traction, and action adventure games with 1000% uplift. Quite amazing, and it makes you wonder, what should you do next? Here are some nice examples of games that were launched in the last time. Each company released a great hit, which is also a cross-platform multiplayer. You can look at the different genres and at the different companies. Nobody is left out. So all those titles that required to be on so many different platforms, it is a little bit hard to develop, right? And still, most of the games nowadays are offered for free, free to play. Free to play games are actually now responsible for 78% of the total revenue. Only 22% of the revenue came from actually selling games, which shows a 9% increase for the free-to-play games. The PC and console barely hold any revenue compared to mobile that is entirely free-to-play, right? And no wonder, because historically, PC and console games were sold, while mobile quite promptly evolved into a free-to-play model. Here are some examples. So you may wonder that a free game would not be so of such a good quality. It will be just a simple game, maybe a word game, or I don't know, some simple 2D racing game. These examples actually show different. We see companies like Epic that present FORTNITE with 350 million registered users, or PUBG Mobile with 770 million installs, Honor of Kings with 100 daily active users, and we didn't even mention Roblox yet. So you don't have to necessarily charge for your game in order to justify an investment in your game. But it's 100% right that your game should be of very fine quality in order to attract the masses. Otherwise, you won't see such numbers. So how can we make money of a game in general? What are our options? So the first option is quite straightforward, just an upfront payment, sell your game, which might be the dream of everyone here who ever thought of developing a game. I'll invest my life, my time, my savings into a beautiful game, and I'll offer it to the audience. And I'll charge some money for it, and they will gladly pay. Only one thing here is wrong. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows my game. I have no reputation. I'm not a big company. I'm also not a big platform. Nobody stands behind me. So why would people pay for my game? Right. Companies like EA Sports can afford themselves to offer to the market paid games with a reputation of so many years. And also companies like Sony, PlayStation, and Xbox can offer to support some paid apps, some paid games, being backed by their own reputation. So I'll conclude that charging for your game is an option saved to the biggest game studios. And for everyone out of this category, let's move on for the next option. Just before we dive into the other options, let's look a little bit about the other side, why the companies justify their high prices. So they justify the high prices by two things. Basically, they say, one, the inflation that happened during the last 2 decades, actually even 3 decades, is bigger than the growth in the price. And the demand for high quality games require huge investment in development. Basically, in order to release such game as FIFA, for example, it requires $80 to $150 million. So we need to pay somehow for that game, right? So we will charge about $70 per game. But users say, hey, $70 per game, it's already expensive. So yeah, maybe I'll buy one game for $70, but I'll definitely won't be buying one every month. So 2 suggestions how to reduce this immediate cost from the end user and divert it somewhere else. You can offer a basic game for a lower price, and then digital deluxe versions, which will upgrade the game for additional price. Another way of looking at it is also releasing packages on top of the initial game with additional stories, additional experience, and charging for that. So again, it will only work if this initial game was so great, so addictive, so attractive that people would actually pay another $30 after they already paid their 40. Another option of driving users to try your game without necessarily paying an upfront fee would be relying on in-app purchases and microtransactions. So we see many games who implement this strategy among the different devices. This basically refers to giving the game for free, but setting a mechanism within the game that in order to move forward in the game, you need to evolve. You need to develop your hero. You need to develop your car. You need to train your sportsman. And in order to do so, you have to have resources. These resources are basically purchased for money. With them, you can buy additional food, additional skins, additional stories, and of course, improvement for your vehicle or helicopter. These are quite efficient. We can see in this slide a trend between the years 2019 to 2020 broken by categories. So yes, this one refers to mobile because on mobile we have so many categories, but let's just take a look. Let's choose a few interesting categories. You can see, for example, on the left, that the number of transactions per paying user increased between the years on games like Casino and Action, and slightly on racing, and it slightly decreased on other verticals. If we take a look at the amount spent, we can see that for Casino, the amount spent also increased. I wonder if it's COVID effect. For car games, for example, actually the spend per user increased significantly between the 2 years, while the number of purchases basically stayed the same. In general, we see a mixed trend. We see that more and more people are engaging with in-app purchases. More and more people are stepping into spending their dollars in the game, but they're doing that cautiously. Many of them start with low amounts, and only after a while they will be able to invest more of their money. By the way, it makes sense. A few years ago, I heard many complaints from developers who complained that the users simply don't want to pay for the game because we were so used to have those games for free that it just seemed for us just naturally to have something for free without the need of paying. But during the time, we got used to several stuff. First, we understood that, hey, gaming is not waste of our time. We train ourselves, we enjoy, we even learn something. In this sense, also investing money in gaming is not a waste of our time. Basically, it's an investment. And when games are built to actually encourage us to invest money instead of wasting our time on some boring, repetitive activity, this makes total sense. Times equal money. And if we want to save our time, we better invest some of our money, which, by the way, is not that significant. I believe that anyone can afford to spend $10 a year for a game, for several games even. Another option to look at what we can offer to our users is called DLC, and again, microtransactions. So DLC is downloadable content. Downloadable content is something that we can download to our game after the initial launch. let's just say that we're playing our game for a while and a new story burst out. We can download this story for additional payment, or maybe a package of new skins also can be downloadable. If we package all the different upgrades that already happened and we add to them the future planned updates, we can actually sell it as a season pass. This is basically a fee for everything that was offered by now combined, plus a promise to offer additional stuff. Surprisingly enough or not, almost 29 billion in revenue came from this particular offer in 2021, of course. Loot boxes is something interesting. Loot boxes actually trying to trigger our spark, our gambling effect. It's a black box, which is definitely not black. On the contrary, it's so shiny and popping up and attractive, but you don't know what's inside. So for every game, the thing that you're buying within this box would be a promise for something brilliant. It could be the most attractive player, the Joker card, the new car that you were expecting and you couldn't afford, and you will get it for only, let's say, $1, or maybe a package of several of them. So you buy this loot box and you don't know what the lottery will give you. In some cases, you'll enjoy a great prize. In some cases, you'll end up disappointed having something that you already own. This is so close to gambling that some states and some countries actually find it illegal or actually just gambling. So with laws that imply for gambling. But in many other cases, when implemented right, it works and it works well. Subscription, subscription is the holy grail of monetization, like the sweet dream of every game developer. What is better than just lay back knowing that I have a subscription and I have a recurrent revenue from 1 million users who subscribe for $5 or $10 a month, and this is the revenue that I'm going to gain. So interesting, so nice for investors, so easy to plan. But hey, remember what happens with subscription? Subscription, you need to justify. And who can justify a subscription? You wouldn't subscribe for just a game. You would maybe subscribe for a package of games or a library of games, such as Netflix, such as Xbox or PlayStation, who can offer tons of games and a promise that you can play every single one of them with everything open just because you decided to pay, let's say, 10 or 20, I don't know how much dollars every single month. And now, just like with your gym subscription, guess what happens? You start enthusiastically, you spend all your time, you wake up before work, you wake up before school, you run home, you play with all your friends for at least 4 days, and then a decline. And suddenly you find your gaming subscription lying together with your gym subscription, which may be a bit comforting for your parents who paid for this, but is not a good investment of your money. So to judge how subscription is effective for you is basically not necessarily by the number of subscribers, but the number of renewals. How many of your players actually renew your subscription? This can help you to project your future revenue and success. And as you already understand, once again, this model is reserved for the biggest companies. Monetization, on the other hand, is for everyone. With a tiny number of users, well, relatively tiny number of users, you can already start implementing some ads. 4 main types are familiar in this market. Let's go one by one. So rewarded video would be a video of an ad that you would choose to watch. You will be offered to watch a video for a certain reward, for a certain prize. We just said before that the games are already designed in a way that you will have to invest your money or your resources, right? So this is kind of shortage here. Instead of just repetitively doing some job in order to gain the resource or harvest your resource, you can shorten this time by watching a video of an ad and gain this. So by the way, what kind of video you're most likely to watch? I can tell you what kind. Most likely that you would see another game video, basically a UA campaign, user acquisition campaign that is directed for your user to go elsewhere and play their game. Will your user always go elsewhere and play their game? No. But will they eventually go somewhere and play? Definitely yes. Otherwise, this just simply wouldn't been working for so long. So on one hand, this rewarded video can be very profitable for you, attractive, and actually part of the game economics. But on the other hand, it's also part of your churn. So as long as you manage to balance your churn with the revenue that you get, this is definitely something to consider. Blended in-game, on the other hand, is totally different. It's a native ad that is placed in a place that is expected for the ad within the game. Like in the example here, or just imagine a soccer stadium or a baseball stadium where the usual suspects as sponsors have their signs. So within your game, you can have the same signs, but with changing ads, and you'll be collecting the revenue from those ads. Nowadays, in fact, there's almost no game that you cannot blend an ad in. It fits most of the genres. Even the 2D games are acceptable for this purpose. Interstitials. As the name suggests, interstitial is an ad that comes between stuff within the game. So, for example, between levels, or after you die, or before you start the game, or after you end the game. It's a full screen video that covers the whole screen. It drives your full attention, but unfortunately, it also locks you in this ad. So if in the rewarded video, you actually choose to be locked for 30 seconds, in this case, you will be locked for a shorter period of time, between 5 to 15 seconds, but you'll be locked, trying to look for this X button. Yet again, this might be an intrusive ad, but it drives quite a lot of revenue with it. A banner. A banner is this ad that is probably known by all of you. It emerges on top of your screen and basically takes part of it. It could be horizontal, like in this example, or vertical, like in many cases when we just hold our phone. It doesn't interrupt your gameplay in most cases. Some people even claim that they develop the banner blindness effect when they don't notice this banner. But I wouldn't say that they never notice it. I believe that everything is noticeable when the right ad appears. So whenever there will be something that will attract their attention, literally, it will attract their attention. So this is why banners can actually be profitable for you as well, and can gain you even up to 15% of your ad revenue. So what actually drives more revenue? Would it be in-app purchases or ads? There's no single answer to that question. The answer would be lying between the different genres of the games. For a game like word game, you can see that almost 80% of its revenue would come from ads. On the other side, adventure or casino games will almost solely rely on in-app purchases. The rule of thumb would be the more your game is casual or even hyper casual, the more it will rely on ads. The more your game is hardcore, the more it will rely on in-app purchases. By the way, the portion of ads that you should consider would be the non-intrusive portion of ads, not the banners and interstitials. The rewarded video and the blended in-game ads will only fit the good quality AAA games and will drive the additional amount of revenue for you. Okay, so what do gamers think of ads? The facts are that 51% of the mobile gamers actually play longer in games with ads. I wonder why is that? Do they really enjoy ads so much? And despite the number that is proposed here, I don't think that they so much enjoy ads. There are actually two reasons for that. When it's about the rewarded video, they basically get the resources they need in order to proceed in the game. So they get the resources from watching the ads, which by the way also takes some time within your app, and then they use those resources, which makes their sessions longer. They basically enjoy the game better. It actually enables for additional portion of users to proceed within the game without having to pay. And there's some users like that. They might not have a credit card. They might be too small to have a credit card, or they just might be too poor to pay or against that. So with the relevant ads, you just enable them the paths that you initially projected. Now, another interesting observation would be to say, hey, so if I have a game that is also monetized with ads, it means that this game, initially when it was planned, it built on additional revenue. It could be additional 40% or 50% or even 70%, depending on the game vertical. This means that when the developers plan their resources, they could invest more in this game, which means that basically a game with well-set monetization structure that also based on ads can actually have a better game. It invested more in this game from the get-go. So no wonder that the result is more attractive for gamers. And now gamers play more in good games than in bad games. So even that they have ads in them, they continue to play. So what will differ a good ad between a bad ad? Many people would say that the content matters. If the ad is relevant to me, it's a good ad, and if it's not relevant to me, it's a bad ad. So maybe from the user perspective, at first sight, he would want to see only good and relevant ads. But frankly speaking, it's very disturbing. Just imagine you go everywhere and it will show you everything you thought about. Well, it happens sometimes with how Google and Facebook track our preferences, but even if it will be constantly in your game, it will be terrible. So I wouldn't say that content of the ad is the most important. Like always, the user experience is what's important. So when you encounter an ad in your phone that literally locked you without your permission, when you never expected that, when you were mostly concentrated on your game, on your video, on your phone, or in general on whatever you were doing in your phone, and suddenly the ad popped up and closed you within this ad for 5 to 15 and sometimes more seconds, here is when you start losing your mind. So users do hate bad ads. They don't mind having ads. They understand what are ads for. Here's an example of how ads should look like. Take a look at this video. where you see different implementations of blended in-game ads. Different verticals of games show different type of ads that could be blended naturally within the gameplay. It fits across mobile games, console games, PC games. Basically, everything works. And now, when we already suggested that players enjoy cross-platform environment, you can actually have the same setup of ads across all your platforms. A link to full video will be provided at the end of this session. I think that you already get the impression. So, blended in-game advertising. What is it good for? Let's take a look at some stats. We asked users, what do you prefer to do? Actually, Comscore asked users, would you prefer to have or not have the product placements, as it's sometimes called? So even though about 20% of the users said that they prefer to get rid of the product placement, more than 30% stated that product placement makes game more real. In other words, 67% of the users said that they don't mind having ads. They only don't want ads to disturb them. And this is the exact situation. We don't want the ad to disturb me in my gameplay. I don't mind having the ad. I understand why it has to be there. Okay, I went a little bit back and forth. Let's go back to the slide. I'm trying to set it on full screen. Why isn't that going back to full screen? Okay. So yeah, we were here, and now we will talk about how to choose a monetization strategy. So initially I wanted to talk here left to right, but I think that I'll go right to left because what's right is right, right? Make monetization a core element. Well, this is a must. It's a shame to have a great game, to invest so much in this game and not think how you're going to make money out of this game. Because depending on the way you plan to monetize this game, the whole game should look like. Maybe you'll introduce a virtual currency. Maybe you'll design your world in a way that natural placements will fit better. Maybe you'll solely rely on purchases, which means that you have to make the game so attractive so people won't be able to stand out and they will buy. Or maybe you actually want to sell your game. Maybe you aim to sell your game to a big studio. So plan first and only then go to code your game. It's always preferred to start with something and then A/B test it. So why not to do that with your game development as well? You can create a short version of what you plan to do, run an A/B test, and then continue to do what is successful for you. If you see that your users adopt in-app purchases, go on. If you see that there is a demand for a paid app, be my guest. If you think that a certain type of ads will be the best one for you, this is the way to go. Remember, the player is in the center. So player first strategy would be the key to success. Whatever you do, you have to remember that you're not the player of the game. You're maybe the designer of the game, but you're not a consumer. And you have to be in their mind. I don't think there is a way to get into their minds other than just asking their minds. And we're back to the A/B tests. So what would be the best strategy? Should I choose in-app purchases, or maybe paid, or microtransactions, or ads? Our suggestion would be hybrid. You should not rely solely on one strategy. You can combine several of them. Let's discuss what are the best couples. So when in-app purchases and ads actually strive together, because as we discussed earlier, in-app purchases help you to move forward with the game, and ads actually compensate in case somebody cannot move forward with in-app purchases. They allow him still to move forward, maybe slower, but forward. On the other side, when you purchase a game, you kind of think that, hey, I bought everything I want. I don't want to now spend additional revenue after I already paid $70. It's just like, I will buy my Mercedes, I'll start driving it, and I'll turn on my radio, and then, oh, I have limited stations. Really? I paid for a Mercedes, god damn it. Why would else I pay for a Mercedes if I don't have everything inside? It will get me frustrated. I might, by the way, still upgrade my Mercedes, but I will not repeat this mistake again. So since you're not the first one to develop an app, most of the users already did the mistakes they can afford to themselves. So now they're veterans. They won't go for the same mistake. So if you aim to charge something in your game, it better to be in-app purchases or microtransactions, and back it up with ads. Let's talk about few assumptions that people sometimes have about in-game advertising. So people say that in-game is not scalable. Really, how am I going to brand my vending machine within this game? So, okay, I put a Coca-Cola on top of this vending machine, I got my money, and now what? So the reality nowadays is slightly different. By the way, this was the reality back in the days when we saw FIFA with hard-coded apps, when we saw GTA with hard-coded ads, promotions or sponsorships within the games. Yeah, this was the reality, and also it was only it made sense only to such huge players who would just sell the sponsorship for a huge amount. But now, when technology became so dynamic, programmatic, and also cross-platform, this actually happens in a very fast pace. So the same vending machine, actually, it's not Coca-Cola vending machine anymore. It's just a placeholder. Now, it can hold any type of ad that you would like. It could be booking.com, it could be a bank, it could be Coke, and it could be some insurance company that wants your users to remember them. By the way, this ad wouldn't be clickable, and it wouldn't get your users away from your game, unlike rewarded video, for example, who is also intrusive and clickable. Regarding the scale, so the scale is growing rapidly. We can see that it's about to it achieved more than 5 billion in revenue in 2020, and about to more than triple it by 2027 to 18 billion. How hard is it to integrate in game? So first of all, it slightly depends on the game you have and the platform you use, but in general, it's quite easy. As just described, you take your vending machine, you set it within the 3D environment, the 3D studio that you use. It could be Unity, it could be Unreal, it could be Caucus, or whatever engine that you're using for your games, or whatever console or operating system you're using. Yes, also for Macs. You can implement a placeholder. and then derive the ads to it. How will you know what the hell is now happening? So basically, just like all the other ads, and basically nowadays, like everything else, you simply have a dashboard. And within this dashboard, you can trace that time, pricing and content and formats and frequency and density and many other stuff. In most companies, you'll also have a supporting account manager who will help you navigate through the dashboard at the beginning, and also for some best practices of how to get more from your game. Because yes, as much as it's simple to start with the integration, you can always improve it, just like everything you do. You can add another vending machine, or maybe you can plan your user to stop in front of the vending machine to watch the video. So it could be even kind of rewarded video, but within your game, and also brand video and not user acquisition video that will drive your user away. Interesting. Oh, just spoke about brands. So some would say that brands are not interested in gaming, and this would be totally true, 100% true in 2017 or 18, maybe even. I've been there. I've been there talking to brands. By the way, I've been there even before. In 2012, I was meeting with Coca-Cola Israel and talking with them about an innovative campaign on a device that barely seen before, a smartphone. And their eyes were sparking, but then the manager said, yeah, but nobody has this device. So we went to Pepsi and we did a major campaign with them 3 months later, because by then already 60% of the population of Israel had a smartphone. Not to mention that the relevant ages, probably 95% already had it by then. So brands are into gaming. They show that in the budget they're spent, in their participation in the different events, in their sponsorship, and just in the general revenue they pour into gaming. Last but not least, a few discussions about user experience and in-game ads. So is it good or bad? Florent, the managing director from Ubisoft, actually thinks that he was very happy to increase their ability to deliver high quality live experiences, because, well, it kind of correlates with the testimonial that that ads make the game look more realistic. This is quite true. Here are some other perspectives. So we have Sears Zach here, a gamer. He thinks that the real life advertisements are amazing and really do add to the aesthetics. I also support creating revenue that doesn't come from the gamer's pocket. So finally, we understand that if something is for free, then you are the product. So actually, ads explain this formula to you. It's not for free. You get the game for the ability to show you ads. And it's maybe better compared to ability to steal your data, to abuse you, to track you. So gamers appreciate that because this is quite transparent. You watch an ad, you continue to play. So just to summarize everything, we discussed about how games became big and that they are definitely big. We talked about how free-to-play dominates the gaming market. And now we just discussed that maybe the best way to monetize your app would be focusing on several strategies, combining some ad strategy with some purchases strategy. I was Lev Kommisarchik from Anzo. I had a great time. I'll be here for additional questions. Thank you very much.